I'll never forget the night I came face to face with danger at a desolate crossroads deep in the heartland. I was on a late night run, hauling a heavy load through winding back roads far from civilization. The darkness was complete, punctuated only by the stark beam of my headlights and the distant rumble of thunder. The road felt endless, a black ribbon stretching into an uncertain future. As I navigated a particularly sharp curve, I spotted an unusual detour sign pointing toward a side road I'd never seen before. Against every instinct screaming at me to stay on the main highway, I took the turn. The new road was narrow and bordered by dense, silent woods. I slowed down, my senses heightened by a deep-seated sense of foreboding. After a few miles, my truck's engine began to sputter, and the lights flickered ominously. Forced to pull over beside an old, run-down farmhouse at the edge of the woods, I stepped out to inspect the engine. That's when I saw it, a group of men gathered in the shadows near the farmhouse. At first, I assumed they were local residents, but their furtive glances and hushed whispers set off alarm bells in my mind. I quickly returned to my truck, heart hammering, and tried restarting the engine. As the engine groaned back to life, I caught a glimpse of one of the men in my rearview mirror, watching me with an intensity that chilled me to the core. I floored the accelerator, desperate to put distance between us. The road soon split at a junction, and in a split-second decision, I veered left, hoping to lose any potential tail. Miraculously, the figures faded into the darkness, and I managed to drive off without further incident. Later, when roadside assistance finally arrived and fixed my engine, I recounted the incident to a technician who confirmed that similar reports of ambushes had been filed in that area. In the days that followed, I learned from local truckers that the farmhouse had become a known meeting point for a gang preying on unsuspecting drivers. My narrow escape had inadvertently led to increased police attention in the area, resulting in several arrests. Weeks later, while grabbing a late lunch at a roadside diner near the crossroads, I met an old trucker who shared his own terrifying experience at that junction. He revealed that the ambush was a calculated move by criminals exploiting isolated roads to ambush truckers. In a shocking twist, he told me that on the night of my run, a passing patrol had intercepted a suspicious vehicle, thwarting a planned robbery. I left the diner with a mix of relief and disbelief. The night had been a harrowing confrontation with real human threat, an ambush that could have cost me dearly. Story 2. The night on the abandoned highway. Before that fateful night, I prided myself on being a seasoned trucker, comfortable with long hauls on empty highways. But nothing could have prepared me for a delivery run that turned into a nerve-wracking encounter with real human danger. It began like any other evening. I was hauling a load of refrigerated goods along a desolate stretch of highway. The road was a bleak ribbon of asphalt, bordered by withered trees and old billboards long forgotten. As I drove, I noticed a battered pickup truck persistently tailing me. Its headlights cut through the darkness like red blades, and despite my best efforts to shake it off, the vehicle stayed locked on my trail. I tried to rationalize the situation, thinking maybe it was just another trucker trying to get a better look at the road. But as the miles ticked by, the pickup's presence grew increasingly aggressive. At one point, it swerved abruptly off the highway, only to reappear moments later, mimicking my every turn. My instincts screamed that something was off. This wasn't routine highway traffic. Soon after, I pulled off at a nearly abandoned rest stop to catch my breath and recheck my rig. While I was refueling, I overheard a hushed conversation between a couple of fellow drivers in the parking lot. They discussed recent incidents in the area, a series of robberies and violent ambushes targeting truckers on that very stretch of road. My heart sank as I pieced together that the pickup following me might be linked to a dangerous criminal network preying on isolated drivers. With adrenaline pumping, I resumed my journey on a different route. The remainder of the night was a blur of white-knuckled driving and constant glances in the rearview mirror. At dawn, as I finally pulled into a safe truck stop, my radio buzzed with the dispatcher's alert. A stolen vehicle matching the pickup's description had been apprehended nearby. Relief and disbelief mingled within me. I had narrowly escaped an ambush orchestrated by hardened criminals. I later learned from fellow truckers that the pickup had indeed been part of a string of violent incidents along that highway, and my evasive maneuvers had inadvertently contributed to a crackdown by local law enforcement. Though that night left me shaken and wary of every shadow on the road, I couldn't help but feel a grudging gratitude. I had survived a true test of vigilance and resourcefulness, a stark reminder that sometimes the real terror on the highway comes from human depravity, not imaginary specters. And in that unexpected twist, I found solace in knowing that my instincts saved my life, paving the way for a new chapter of caution and determination on the road. Story 3. The cold storage confrontation. In my nearly 10 years behind the wheel, I thought I'd seen every kind of danger the road could throw at me. Yet nothing compared to the night I spent battling a malfunctioning refrigerated trailer that nearly cost me my life. It was a bitter winter evening when I was assigned a delivery to a remote distribution center notorious for its outdated equipment and isolated location. After loading up, I set off with a cargo of frozen goods, determined to complete the run without incident. But about an hour into the drive, I noticed something was wrong. The temperature gauge in my trailer plummeted to alarming levels. Concerned for the integrity of the cargo and my own safety, I pulled over at a nearly deserted truck stop. The biting cold was relentless, and the place looked abandoned, with broken neon lights flickering over empty parking spaces. I climbed into the trailer to inspect the cooling unit. As I knelt beside the old compressor, I began to hear a repetitive thumping noise echoing through the metal walls, a sound that seemed to grow louder and more insistent by the minute. I initially dismissed it as a malfunction, but deep down, anxiety crept in. The noise wasn't mechanical, it was as if someone was pounding on the interior. I shut off the unit and stepped outside, where I discovered a set of tire tracks leading toward a shadowed corner of the truck stop, tracks that didn't belong to any vehicle I recognized. My gut churned with the possibility of being targeted. I returned to my cab, double-checking every dark corner outside my window, and tried to steady my nerves. The night wore on as a fierce blizzard raged, and I sat in my cab with nothing but the radio for company. Then, unexpectedly, my rig's temperature suddenly normalized. Relieved yet still unsettled, I restarted my truck and sped away from the truck stop. Later, I learned that the truck stop had been a hotspot for recent break-ins and that the mysterious tracks matched those of a stolen service van used by a local gang targeting truckers. A few days later, a local detective called me, thanking me for the information I'd inadvertently provided. My alertness had helped spark an investigation that eventually led to the dismantling of a criminal operation. While the ordeal left me frozen with fear on that cold night, it also forced me to confront the real dangers that lurk in isolated corners of the road. That night, I survived a direct encounter with human malice, a chilling experience that taught me the value of vigilance and the unexpected power of quick thinking. Though the memory still haunts me, I now see it as a turning point, a moment when I realized that even in the harshest conditions, survival can lead to redemption and a renewed commitment to protect oneself on the road.